It's on Shasta County. At the new juror orientation, they are offered an introductory membership to the association free for a year. It's not a voting membership, but it's an introductory. Those that do that are put on the mailing list and then are sent copies of all agendas and all minutes of all meetings. The foreperson is also invited to attend and make a general report, not specific on the investigation. We also try to have speakers at 4 or 5 of our meetings during the year to keep their interest up, because a lot of them are really interested in sort of the service club aspect of it. Then we go over in end of May, beginning of June, and give them a formal invite to join the association. And if we have money in our budget, we throw a pizza party for them to kind of celebrate the end of the year. And then after that, we do a couple follow-up emails to them to join the association. Last year we lucked out, we got 10. The year before that, we got 2 out of the sitting jurors. And then we also put together a brochure, which we have a copy of, and I have some additional copies to give out that would give to them to try to explain what the association is and what the association does.
Again, this might sound like a broken record, it's supposed to. If you can send me information like this that you use, that I can put on the chapter resources page on our website, that'd be a way to share with other chapters. Is anybody from San Mateo County here? Now, Barbara did a presentation a couple of years ago about a very extensive, I guess that was a juror recruitment effort, not a chapter recruitment effort, was it? Okay, that's different. Sorry. Okay.
I had a question, maybe I can direct it to Orange County, is what caused the chapter to be independent from CGJA?
This decision was made several years ago. This decision was made several years ago, and they decided apparently that they were not happy with what the association was offering them at the time, and they could do it independently, and they decided to do that, and that's the way they do it right now. We have probably a good number of people who are in the association who are members individually, but not the association itself.
Are you structured with your own nonprofit and all that?
Yes, we are.
In your corporation?
Yes, we are. Yep, and they did that when they made the decision long before my time, so it works out very well. Everybody seems to be happy with it. We've discussed it several times since, and nobody seems to be willing to change it, so.
I don't know if we're supposed to be doing a sales pitch for the Independent Association. Yes, I understand.
Chuck McLean, El Dorado County. We started as an independent organization many years ago, and if you want to blame a past president, it was actually El Moser who did it. And the reason we've stayed that way, and we are friendly with each other, and we're very engaged in CGJA. But one of the requirements to be a chapter is to have, I think it's 5 paid-up members. We're a pretty small county, nice folks, but it's hard to get more than a couple, 3 people to join. And as it turns out, the only real advantage at this point would be to come under the umbrella of the 503C. 501(c). We already do that because we started that way. So the only comment I would make is that if the requirement to have a certain minimum level of paying state association members were reduced, it might encourage independent organizations to just fall under the umbrella of the state organization.
Okay. I can say that of the 4 independent associations, my understanding is that 2 of them are small, like El Dorado, and 2 are more like Orange County, which has a couple of 100 members, I think.
157.
Yeah. So they're a big org. If they were a chapter, they would be our biggest chapter.
That's the biggest our county.
same problem in Butte County. We should have no problems with our getting people in. We're a rural county, so we're smaller, but we have a university, a large community college. We have regional hospital, on and on and on and on, and we just struggle and struggle and struggle. I have to tell you, I don't think it's anything that we can do anything about. What has to happen is our judges have to change the way they constitute the grand juries. And, I think that probably tomorrow's discussion, if there's going to be one, might be a more opportune time to talk about that. But we're having a hard time even constituting grand juries. It's ridiculous.
Okay, I will just kind of quickly comment that there were a couple of chapter presidents that sent me an interest on this subject, and I want to make sure that we're addressing what they were interested in. So if they want to speak up a little bit about what their interest was, if we're not covering it, please do. But now I think Mr. Orange County had something else he wanted to say.
Up until about 5 years ago, most of the people in Orange County who retired from the grand jury looked at the Grand Jurors Association as a social function, a gathering where they could get together with prior jurors once every 3 months for a luncheon. That's something that we have continually tried to change, to get the people an opportunity to get more involved in the jury process, if you will. But most of the people that come to our luncheons come to meet and discuss with people who are in other grand juries. We have made a conscious effort to put on people's name tags the year of the jury they were on, so they would know themselves what jury they were on, and some of the other people would be able to have something in common. But this concept of it being a social function is long-standing and really detracts from getting new people into the association.
Okay. There.
Thank you. Tom Pasick from Kern County. I think in terms of recruiting for chapters, one of the real valuable tools that chapters have is the continuity that was spoken of previously. And because to me at least, one of the frustrations of being a grand juror is to spend literally several months doing a very thorough investigation and cranking out a lengthy report and perhaps getting a fairly good newspaper report about it and getting a response that we may or may not be satisfied with, and then it dies. It's just a sudden or at least slow and agonizing, but one way or another winds up dead. And subsequent grand juries have or at least the immediate following year in most cases, have their own things that they want to pursue or need to pursue. And so the old report that listed 5 or 20 or whatever it was recommendations just kind of languishes. And whether it should or shouldn't languish is not really relative. The fact is that they tend to languish with all these unacted upon promises. And I think that if the local chapters get really involved in follow-up, then the existing jurors can start seeing the fruits of their labor, and they can participate in growing those fruits. And that I believe can be probably the single most valuable tool for recruitment.
I think we kind of are hearing that from several sources, that agreement that is a motivating factor for joining a chapter. Okay, no, not quite done. Okay.
Going back for a second to the gentleman from Butte County regarding the judges, we actually asked our presiding judge, to make up a letter to send to the sitting grand jury encouraging them to join our chapter. And it still didn't work. But if you want the letter, I believe it's on the member resources.
Okay.
If I can comment, One of the successful things that we do in Contra Costa County is we touch the new jury as soon as we can. And when CGJA comes into town to do their training, our chapter provides breakfast for them, breakfast goodies, finger food. And that's the first introduction they have to our association. You're feeding them. Once you feed them, it's just like anything else. It breaks down the resistance. So as much as you can touch them, but early with food will help them.
We do breakfast and lunch.
All right.
And coffee.
I just want to add a couple of things in the San Luis Obispo. One, to what's been said. One of the things that we do annually is that we honor the grand jury. It's normally in August, previous year's grand jury, and they're our program. And they come and talk about their experiences, obviously nothing confidential. We pay their lunch, so that has a value. We used to also pay for their wine, but that our budget was being broken by that. But I think that's been helpful. I think the other thing that we do is that we make the outgoing foreperson an ex officio member of our board. And a few of the, not all, but a few of the foreperson have taken advantage of that. And one of our positions or our justifications is then that foreperson will hopefully bring some of their members in. And that's been successful when that foreperson has become a member of the board. This year in particular, last year was an outstanding grand jury, and we even have a number of holdovers who are now coming to our monthly luncheons. So it's looking very positive.
Thank you. Okay, going to go on to the next item on the agenda. What can chapters and CGJA do to make better use of technology in the grand jury world? Basically, looking for suggestions. It's been suggested that we might be a little bit like dinosaurs, and the technology changes rapidly, and we don't want to get left behind.
Nell Griscom from Santa Cruz again. Sorry, I'd like to talk. The year before I was the foreperson was the first year that our grand jury started doing Google Docs. And I think it's so much easier to do the reports via Google Docs because I could be at my home up in the mountain half an hour from the grand jury room while other people are working in the grand jury room, and we would be instantly in communication. We'd be working on the same document at the same time, responding to each other's comments. So I think that Google Docs are it's a really good way of doing reports.
I hate to be a dissenting voice. We tried Google Docs. It was a disaster. Because you couldn't, edits disappeared, and you couldn't track reports very easily. It's probably better to email around in Word. We found that, Google Docs didn't support line numbers. It had problems with footnotes. It was just terrible for use in complicated reports. So if you can stay with Word and trade things by email, you can collaborate that way. And it does work, although Word on a mobile device is not very good either. So, anyway.
Okay, Peter?
Yes.
And then Karen.
Okay. I've seen it both ways. I'm glad to hear both ways. But what the question really is what can the local chapters do? And having been on a jury 2 years ago that used Google Docs like yours very ineffectively, to watching last year a solution to that problem implemented that worked brilliantly. So I understand that. What the chapter can do, what I found, is that the problem is really that new sitting jurors are random samples from a population that some of them are Apple nerds and all the way to business, Windows people and everything in between. And probably the bulk of them use email to email their grandkids with. So What we can do is to train them, is to provide training or help or a workshop or something like that early on, because if you are going to go to Google Docs, you definitely want to have training, and generally the county isn't in a position to give you tons of training. But we could organize it and or pay for it and or give it.
Just real quick, our county has a secure server that they use, so I don't know, we don't do Google Docs. We use something called Citrix. But we have a technology officer on the sitting grand jury, and we help train if it's, hopefully they are a holdover. Otherwise, the chapter helps communicate what kinds of things they need to teach their people. And the sitting grand jury for the first few months has little quick lessons on how to do editing or whatever at plenary sessions, just a 5-10 minute thing. So we can encourage, you're right, the training is absolutely critical. And working with recruitment, being honest with folks about the importance of having some, if you don't have it, the technology base, you're willing to learn. And we'd be happy to help you learn it.
Okay, anything else?
I'm from San Bernardino County, and we were severely criticized by our IT department for using something like Google Docs because it's not secure. And anybody can get into that and see your reports that you're starting to formulate and so forth was a real problem for them. So the better solution was to go to Word. It's a little bit more of a hassle because you always have to make sure that you're working on the latest version of the report. But security is a real issue. In fact, they wanted to be able to get into and look at our stuff, which we objected to. We didn't want them to have that power. So it's a kind of a two-way street.
So yeah, the security issue came up. We had a computer person on my grand jury who addressed this problem. The thing is that our grand jury had its own site within the county that nobody could get into without the password that only the grand jurors had. So he felt that it was secure enough because that was the only way you could get in, that it wasn't a problem to use the Google Docs within that. And you couldn't search and find our website.
Just a comment. I've been officially branded a Luddite by my wife, my children, and my grandchildren. So that brings up the training issue. Yes. I can use Word. I used it at work. The county trained me to use Word. But as far as Google Docs and all these new things, Microsoft keeps changing my email, so half the time I can't even get into that. So yeah, the training is the key.
Okay, I think that somebody might have mentioned using Facebook or Twitter with regard to grand jury, and I don't understand what that would do other than create a disaster.
I don't think there's enough space left on Twitter.
Richard?
I don't know, sitting back here, I haven't been on a jury since 2001, and computers didn't exist then. We didn't really even have a typewriter. Anyway, it looks to me like this is a subject that needs to find an answer. And we all sit around, everybody has ideas and not, but this seems to be a subject that the association should somehow put together a committee and try to find an answer so that the 29 grand juries throughout the state can have something that'll work for them. Instead of year after year coming back going, Google Docs works for me, no it doesn't work for me, it's not secure, it is secure. find something that does work and gets checked out and have a recommendation. Now, if they don't choose to use it, that's nothing you can do about it. But find something that works and gets checked out, and then
And document that,
serve a purpose to people.
yeah. She wants to ask another question.
I think we need to figure this out because this is the wave of the future. If we want to attract younger people to our association and our juries, Facebook is already outdated. The younger group now is going to Instagram, and there's things I've not even really heard about much. I think we need a Facebook page for our association, and for not only for the chapter, but for the association. We need to have somebody that will look into Instagram, because look at us in this room. I don't see anybody under 50, 40. And, you know, I just think this is the wave of the future, and I think we have the talent to have somebody start to figure this out and teach us how to do this.
Thank you.